Right, part 10 of Project PAHOOT. We've finally got to the stage now where, I don't know why I'm saying we, I mean there's only me doing it. Got to the stage now where everything's off the chassis, I've got the engine, and we start digging into the engine. So, you'll see how well that goes. Have fun. Right, so I didn't film what I just did, but I've got all the remaining bolts and tabs off the chassis, so fingers in the way there. So all of these are captive, so I'm gonna have to drill them out. But all the seatbelt stuff is out. I've broken all the little folding tabs off along the chassis. I've pulled all the foam off, and I've cut the bumper bar off in the end. I just need to get the still saw on these brackets when the time comes. Anything else that's hanging down has now been removed. So, it's a little bit closer than it was. Got a track to go past first. But that's everything I've cut off or removed. This was one of the body brackets that attaches down about there. Well, that's toast. I can always remake that, anyway. It's only a little flimsy tab. But yeah, all that's going in the bin. And suspension, and once that's off, suspension, steering rack, once that's off, it can be inspected, blasted, or if I feel like doing it myself with a grinder and a wire wheel, I will do, but I think it's going to have to be blasted looking at it. Getting there. Right, bit more progress. Steering rack is off, front left hand corner is off, shock is off. It actually all unbolted. The only thing I had to cut was this brake line here, but it all unbolted pretty easily, so I'm not going to mess around. I'll do the same on the other side, and then I'll try and see what the back does. But after that, everything is off. So it was about half an hour to get that corner off, but now I know what I'm doing. I think I can blast that out in no time. So crack on, get the rest of it off, and then we'll have a start on the back. But it's going all right so far. we unbolted most of the rear suspension, but one bit is fighting me and I've had to cut it. Well, I've had to cut both the bolts on this side. That bolt, the shaft of, is well and truly seized in. So I've given it a bit of a kick in, a bit of a soak while my grinder recovers. And then that should be it for the rear end. You just take the whole diff and trailing arm assembly off as one. That chassis is bare then. So hopefully if I can get that bolt to drift out, I'm good to go. It's taken about, just over an hour all in, hour and a half maybe at the most. Time to start, 4:30, 10 to 6, not even an hour and a half. So we're getting there. Be happy days. As soon as this is off, I'm happy with that for the time being. I've got a trailer to repair, but lovely. Right, I'll keep fighting. Let's see how we get on. Right, it's off. It's all done. The whole axle assembly is sat on here. It's bloody heavy. I don't know, I'm going to lift it off there because I need them stands to put the chassis on in a minute. But yep, everything's off. Shocks are all a bit minging, but I've just got to get everything together. Everything in boxes, out the way, and give it a clean up. See if I can find a shot blaster or have a go myself. But the big thing is I'm going to collect the engine this weekend, so I'm really happy. I'm happy now that I'm in this position because I can go and store this, or send it off, get it done, and while that's getting done I can work on getting the engine and gearbox together and other bits and bobs, maybe start doing on some body stuff. But this is at a good stage now. Everything is how I want it to be, and we can move forward and go and get an engine. Happy days. We've got a new engine. I'm in Cardiff. It's really cold. It's like 5 to 6 in the morning. Just come out of my hotel and I've got this. BMW M62 V8, only a 3.5, so it's 230 horsepower, but that'll be enough. It looks massive in the back of here, doesn't it? Huge. It is only a little van, but it's it fits and it still moves with it in. I've just now got to sit and wait for my van to defrost before it can go anywhere. But I'm happy now. I've got an engine. It was a long trip, 4-hour drive down here, and then I've got another 4-hour drive. Oh my god, that's really noisy. Another 4-hour drive back. Just turn that fan down a minute. Yeah, 4-hour drive back. But it should, if I turn the light on, it should fit straight onto that gearbox, I hope. But we'll find out, won't we? We're always finding out. That's all I'm ever saying. But we'll find out, won't we? But we will. But I'm happy now. I'm tired, but I'm happy. Happy days. finally got the engine back to base. It's in the shed where it belongs, on a pallet. Got the axle on as well. I've also bought a crane scale, so I'm going to weigh these things before they go in. It's only a cheap Chinese thing. It's probably a bit dark in here, but goes up to 500 kilos, which should be cover pretty much anything that I've got here. So the next one will be me getting into the belly of looking at what's on the engine that I don't need, like ancillaries wise. I'll get it on the a crane scale, see how much it weighs, get it on the engine stand, have a good look around it, see what I need, what I don't need, and we'll go from there. But I'm happy now. I've got one of the biggest parts here. Oh, we need to see if and how it fits with the gearbox. It should do. Not expecting it to fit perfectly, but it's more likely to with the BMW engine, BMW gearbox. But I'm happy with where we're up to. A bit of a crack at weighing the engine. I've got it in the workshop. I want to put it on the stand. I've got the part of the stand bolted on already, and I've got my super duper scale here ready to go. So I'm going to see what happens now, what it is weight wise. Obviously the weight of the extra couple of kilos of the bracket part of the engine stands isn't taken into account, but I'll just take a couple of kilos off. But we'll see. It's off the ground now. What are we at? $223 kilos. That's got all its ancillaries on, so yeah, I can handle that. I think the V6 that came out was about that heavy, so let's crack on. Let's get it up and on its stand, and I can work on it from there. Joy. Right, it's on the stand. I'm going to start taking stuff off it. Not stripping it down completely, just taking things off that don't need to be there for the time being. So all the stuff coming off the front. Power steering pump is going. This massive water-cooled alternator that's about the size of a washing machine, that's going. All the wiring is going to come off. Oil filter, starter motor, and just get it down to like a bare engine, and see where we're working, see what we're doing. Let's have a go. Right, we've got the oil cooler and filter assembly off. We've got the starter motor off. They're all in there. There's some vac lines in there as well. I managed to break the end of this vac line off where it goes into the back of the inlet manifold here, but that's not really much of a concern. Got all the injection manifold and loom off. That's looks like it's a lot of a faff, but it was actually easier than I thought it was at the end. So I've now just got to tackle this lot at the front here, undo the tensioner, take off the alternator and power steering pump, and that'll do for the time being. The engine's pretty much as stripped as I need it to be, just for fittings sake. What the hell's that? That's Brooks, is that an airline or something? But it's got a, oh no, it's not a plug at the end, it is just an airline. Right, that can come off as well and go into the box of bits. Right, so I'm going to crack on with getting this all this front end stuff off, and I might weigh some bits. I've already weighed the engine, I've weighed the axle as well, which I'll put a still up of that. That's a heavy old thing, that the rear axle. Yeah, so weigh these things as they come off, because the alternator's not going, I'm hoping not going to put that alternator back on. I'm just going to put a normal non-water cooled one on. Power steering pump's not going on because I'm having electric power steering. I'm going to use a coarser steering column for that, power steering column. So I can probably save a bit there. Just a bit of shorter belts, maybe even an electric water pump, because that's a big old hector as well. Get that out of the way, depending on the price of electric water pump, and then it'll just be a simple pulley from a simple belt from there to the alternator, a tensioner, and Bob's your uncle, which actually is, my uncle is Bob. But going back to the axle, with how heavy it is and the fact that it's a solid axle and it's drums, and I want to convert to discs, I'm looking, just put a fuse on the floor here, I'm looking at maybe a full rear end conversion, probably off another BMW, so it's pretty much going to be BMW underneath, so maybe like a 1 Series or an E36 3 Series, because you get discs, you get the diff, you get the drive shafts, you get the hub, and you've got fully adjustable independent suspension. You can adjust camber, you can adjust toe. It's ideal. The subframes are reasonably cheap and should be probably the same weight, if not lighter, than the axle that's already on there, because it's all aluminium arms. But I've got to look into that. I've got to do some measuring. I'm going to measure up on my own 3 Series, which is an E90, and see what kind of track width we've got and height and all that kind of stuff, and then see what it's like on the chassis before I have to do, if I have to do some really major modifications to it, I'm not going to bother. I'll just stick with the axle and convert it to discs. But once I've done all this, I'm going to get my weighing scales back out. I'm going to weigh the chassis, see how much that weighs on its own now. I'm going to curious to see what the body weighs as it is now. It's still got some seats in, bit of carpet, glass, but we'll see what the body weighs, and I'm going to make a list of everything and sort of see where we're up to and what we're probably going to end up at weight wise when it's done. I mean, the car was originally 1100 kilos with that great big dirty iron lump in it and a 1970s fiberglass body that's as thick as a bricky's wrist and probably weighs more than a small moon. So I might be able to lightweight that a little bit. I'm not looking to make a stupid lightweight featherweight racing car. I just want it to be a bit more perky. But we'll see. I'm going to crack on and get these bits off the engine now before I lose my voice. In a bit. Well, that's a new one for me. I have never seen an alternator that's cast into the main casting of the engine, and then the alternator itself is just a separate little thing that sits inside it. I mean, that feels free, and I mean, it's a bit minging and brown and crusty in there, but there's a few kilos there, but that casting must weigh a bit as well. There's no way of taking that off. It's part of the front cover, part of the cam chain casing, so looks like that's staying. And if I am going to put a different alternator on, I'm going to have to put it this side here and run it off this little section of V-belts here. There's another set of grooves there, so it might just be that this one runs the water pump and then that one runs an alternator over here, because this is where the aircon pump would have been. I assume this would have had one. It was a 5 Series, it would have had aircon. This big old thing's going to go in this box with all the other gear, so all this lot's going to go into the shed, and this can be trial fitted, I think, at some point before the chassis goes off and has anything done to it. So at least see what this looks like for size. One thing I have discovered is the bell housing pattern on the V8s is massive, and it's completely different to the gearbox out of the 4-cylinder car that I've got. So I have two choices. I either, excuse me, turn this down. I either buy a V8 gearbox, which is going to get stuck here. I either buy a V8 gearbox, which means either going back to a 5-speed, which is the Getrag gearbox. They're quite difficult to find because they were only available in the 535s, which is what this was, and not many were manual. The other option is to go for the ZF 6-speed that was on the V8s. It was in the 540s and also in the M5, which means it comes with M tax and consequently costs more than the deficit of a small African country. So, and of course they're also rarer than rocking horse shit. So, but the other option is you can buy an adapter plate. There's a company called PMC Motorsport that make an adapter plate for the M62 engine that fits virtually any other BMW gearbox or gearboxes from other cars, which is a cheaper option. They're about 400 quid, I think, brand new. But I just need to double check the code on my gearbox, and the bolt pattern should fit there. And I would have to do some faffing around with the flywheel, because this is a dual mass flywheel, which is massive, and also the crank position sensor is usually mounted in the bell housing on these cars, on the 535s and the 7 Series. So I would have to move that somehow from there to front of the engine, so I'd have to change a pulley or put a crank sensor on the front here. But that's the easier side of the situation. The harder side is getting the gearbox to physically fit, and then making sure my spacings are all right and my clutch fits and my flywheel's right. And I probably may end up going to a different flywheel, which means getting a clutch off a different car, so probably a 1 or 3 Series clutch. But the main thing is I've got the engine, I can see if it fits, and there is going to be a way of making the gearbox fit. Worst case scenario, I sell the gearbox I've got and then I find a proper one for a V8. I don't want to go to an automatic. I don't want an automatic. I've got an automatic as my main car. I don't want an automatic as my fun car. But we're getting there. We've got an engine. It looks half decent. It looks good like that with all the stuff stripped off it. So I want to try and keep it as minimal as possible. I've got an engine cover for it. That's not going on because it's been flocked, black and green flock, and It looks pretty terrible, to be honest, but it came with the engine. But it's not going to go on. So I can try and keep it looking as old school and engine-y as possible. So yeah, you can see all the inlet manifold and try and keep that as visible as possible, and try and tidy up any water pipe work. And I mean, the loom is reasonably tidy anyway. It's main thing is, as long as it works, that's all I care about. It works. I've got the ECU with this as well. That's in a box in the shed. So it's hopefully just going to be a case of plug that in, get power to it, and then start trying things. I don't know yet, but the main thing is I've got an engine and I've got something to work towards. So now the next thing is test fit it and then work on the gearbox issue. But that's coming soon, hopefully. I will get round to, I'll pull the gearbox out, I'll weigh the gearbox and I'll get my codes off it, and I'll work out what I can do with it, if I can buy the adapter, or if I can speak to people I know who do machining and maybe make an adapter, or I don't know. We'll get there. It's only a small issue. It's minor, nothing to worry about. It's all part of the fun, isn't it?